Hello everyone, I'm Anjali Srivastav and this is my YouTube channel Adarsh Alia. We are discussing in this channel about the zoological aspects at present, and the topics discussed, as I've already told, are the topics given by MSc semester 1 and semester 4 students. The today's topic is the extended part of the systematics and classification, which we have seen in our last two classes. The in last class of biological classification, we have seen the types of taxonomy, the old concept of taxonomy, the modern concept of taxonomy, and today we are going to see the broader processing of classification that includes the identification of the organism, the taxonomic hierarchy, and the nomenclature. These three parts together include the taxonomic classification processing. And this to start with, this taxonomy, as we have seen, it is the arrangement or order of the organism which we are going to identify or which is used for the identification. As this taxonomy is defined as science of biological classification. This biological classification processing involves identification, classification, and nomenclature. Identification is the practical side of taxonomy, that is the process of determining a particular organism that belongs to a recognized taxon. And the classification is the arrangement of organisms into groups or taxa in a hierarchical manner. This is called taxonomic hierarchy. This is the process of arranging various organisms into successive levels of biological classification, either in a decreasing or an increasing manner from kingdom to species and vice versa, either from upper to lower level or from lower to higher level. This is the taxonomical hierarchy. This is the descending pattern, that is the highest, this is starting from the lowest level, and this is the highest level is the domain and the lowest level is the species. Whereas this is the ascending pattern classification, starting from the lowest to the highest, that is species, then genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom, and domain. Whereas in this just reverse process is the domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. This is an example of classification according to the classification of hierarchy or the taxonomical hierarchy of a species and a particular animal, that is the red fox. This classification is presenting starting with the domain, that is Eukaryota, kingdom is Animalia, phylum is Chordata, class is Mammalia, order is Carnivora, family is Canidae, genus is Vulpes, and the species is Vulpes. Now, this pattern of taxonomical hierarchy, as discussed earlier also, it is the classification taxonomists that follow a hierarchical designation, including in ascending sequence, or it may be in descending sequence also. This, the major categories are domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. This hierarchy is followed by the nomenclature system, that is the naming of the organism. So overall, we can see the classification process involves three steps. The first is the identification. Second is the classification in a hierarchical manner, that is into the different taxa, starting from the highest to the lowest, or to the in a decreasing manner, that is from the highest to the lowest pattern, or increasing order, that is from species to the kingdom or the domain. That is the taxonomic hierarchy, and then is completed, the classification process is completed with the naming of the organism, that the process is called as nomenclature. That is branch of taxonomy concerned with the assignment of names to the taxonomic groups in agreement with published rules. Particular ग्लोबल रूल्स के हिसाब से जब कैटेगराइज करते हैं तो उसको nomenclature कहते हैं. Now this hierarchical categories of the taxonomic hierarchy follows the specific taxon or the categories, that is starting with the three domain system that is now accepted widely. That previously the lineal system of hierarchy started with the kingdom, that has been a bit modified by C. Calvus in 1970 to 1990. Finalized version has been accepted in 1990 by Calvus as well as other taxonomists, that divided into the highest group of this hierarchical category as the domain. And Calvus has proposed three domain for the entire zoological as well as botanical, that is पूरे living world को तीन domain में divide किया Calvus ने. And those three domain are Archaebacteria, Eubacteria and Eukarya. And this three domain system was based on the genetical study of the organisms, that is basically the ribosomal RNA, 16S ribosomal RNA and 18S ribosomal RNA. Studies have revealed, according to Carl Woos, that the genetical relationship is there in between the categories, these three members of these three categories, which were previously categorized into two major levels, that is the prokaryotes and eukaryotes, on the basis of cytology. साइटोलॉजी के बेसिस पे बॉडी सेल के बने हुए होते हैं और उन सेल में एक डिफाइंड न्यूक्लियस अगर नहीं है तो वो प्रोकैरियोटिक ग्रुप हो गया, और सेल डिफाइंड न्यूक्लियस है तो वो यूकैरियोटिक ग्रुप हो गया. Carl Woos has divided that prokaryotic group again into two groups, that is Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. Archaebacteria are the prokaryotic group which are more ancient in the evolutionary tree, बहुत ज़्यादा ancient group हैं, और इनके जो cytological basis है that was very much old, and most probably this Archaebacterian group is now not existing, whereas the eubacterial group involves the true prokaryotes having a cellular boundary but no nuclear boundary. And then the largest group is of eukaryotes or eukarya, that includes all the organisms, living organisms having a cellular structure with a defined nucleus. So this is the three domain system of the taxonomic hierarchical category that may be in descending or ascending pattern, with examples we have seen. So this is the three domain system proposed by Carl Woos in 1990, and Carl Woos et al. We can say. So the theory was first proposed by Carl Woos in 1970, and later it is completely agreed with these group of scientists, including the George et al. In 1990. And this theory says that there is a common ancestor, that is the progenome, that has a very poorly developed genetic machinery. That this study was based on the ribosomal RNA sequencing, and he proposed that the entire animal kingdom, living kingdoms rather, can be divided into three groups: the archaea, that is the most ancient group; then bacteria, the eukaryotic group; and eukaryota, that is the eukaryotic groups. So this three domain system is now considered as the highest level of hierarchical categories of living beings. That begins with the three domains, and these are the detailed points for the three domain system, which you can follow if you require in your notes. Now, after that three domain category are these categories which are previously were proposed by Linnaeus, and again it is accepted with by larger categories of taxonomists. After domain comes the kingdom. It is the highest level of classification by most of the taxonomists. That is divided into 5 major kingdoms. The entire living organism have been divided into 5 living kingdom. that are namely Animalia, Plantae, Fungi, Protista, and Monera. Then the next level is the phylum, that is more specific than the kingdom. There are altogether 35 phyla till recognized till now, and in Animalia specifically. So there are different phyla starting from the phylum Protozoa in case of non-chordates, and so on and so forth. Then comes the class. This is considered as the most general rank in taxonomic hierarchy until phyla were not introduced. Altogether, in animals only, in Animalia only, there are 108 classes, including class Mammalia, Reptilia, Apes, etc. These are the examples. Now, then after the class comes the order, which is a more specific rank than class. Then family, that is the category of taxonomic hierarchy, including various genera that share few similarities together. And then the genus, this is a group of similar species forming a genus. Some genera have only one species and known as monotypic genera, whereas others have more than one species and are known as polytypic genera. Then the last category, last but not the least, because again now this species have been divided further according to the latest inventions and surveys into subspecies. However, in general, the species is the lowest level of taxonomic hierarchy. There are about 8.7 million different species on Earth, and it refers to a group of organisms that are similar in shape, form, reproductive features, etc. Species can be further divided into subspecies, and that is according to the modern concept. So with these are the taxonomical hierarchy levels or taxa into which animal, any living organism has been categorized for the broader studies. Now, finally, after the categorizing of into these different headings, the last two levels, that is the genus and species together, are used for a very particular phenomena, very particular step in the study of the taxonomic study of any living organism, that is called as the naming or the nomenclature. So we can say in as a whole that nomenclature is a biological classification or the naming of the organism, any living organism, based on the rules adopted or explained by certain, based on certain international rules or accepted to name a particular individual. Individuals are named variously in different languages and different regions, the living organisms, but it is felt that there should be certain global terms, certain global naming of the living organisms to study in broader aspects, to study in details of each and every group, which is a very vast area or arena of the living beings in the earth. ऑन अर्थ जितने भी कैटेगरीज हैं उनको छोटे छोटे ग्रुप्स में बांट करके कॉमन कैरेक्टर्स फाइंड आउट करके स्टडी करने के प्रोसेस को क्लासिफिकेशन कहते हैं। और इस प्रोसेस का इम्पोर्टेंस ये है कि इस तरीके से फॉलो करके हम इन जनरल ग्रुप्स बना करके कैरेक्टर्स को स्टडी करके एक एक लेवल पे, हायरार्की के लेवल पे या टैक्सॉन के लेवल पे स्टडी करके मोर कन्वीनियंटली लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स के बारे में ज्यादा डिटेल्स में पढ़ सकते हैं। And this study has been finalized with the naming of the individual or the organism that has been named as nomenclature. This nomenclature system, in a linear system, it has been referred as binomial nomenclature. That is, the two terms were used for naming a single living organism. That is, first term included the genus or the genera, and the second term or the last term or the epithet included the name of the species. Sorry. Now, this subsequent work of Linnaeus, a proliferation of binomial names, took place as new species were established and higher taxonomic categories were formed, with the result that by the late 19th century, much confusion started. जैसे जैसे साइंस एडवांसमेंट होता गया है, स्टडीज एडवांस हुए हैं, confusions and conflictions were the essential parts, are the essential part rather, in every area. तो इसी तरह से बहुत सारे conflictions, controversies आए, and in the 20th century certain international committees were formed who have established certain rules for the naming of these organisms, that is the nomenclature system, sorry, and in the fields of zoology, botany, bacteriology, and virology, has done much to clarify the situation. The system has been much clarified, and the two-term system, some examples that can be understood with these some examples. The commonly called frog is known as Rana tigrina, where Rana is the generic name and Tigrina is the species name. Then peas, commonly called peas or mutton, जिसको हम कहते हैं, it is known by the term Pisum sativum. Pisum generic name, sativum is species name. Then for the rose flower, it is Rosa indica, and for man, this is Homo sapiens. As we are looking here, this is the generalized system of the binomial nomenclature. One more thing you should note over here only, that is when we write the binomial nomenclature, it is written in two terms, the Rana and Tigrina. Rana, the generic name, is started with the capital R, and the Tigrina, the species name of frog, the species epithet is starting with the small t. So this is the generalized rule of writing the binomial nomenclature or nomenclature in the world of taxonomy. And when typing, it is written in italics, but if it is handwritten, agar hum haath se likhein, so these two generic name and species name must be underlined. And the generalized rule is that genus, the name of genus start with capital, and the name of species start with the small letter. So this is the in general the rules of binomial nomenclature. This can be studied. These are the different points of the importance and the different rules that we have just discussed in very short. If you want to go into the details, you can take these slides as for your notes. Now this is the very shortened system of writing a binomial nomenclature, and these are the rules established by the international committees for the binomial nomenclature given by the different scientists. So this we have discussed in very short. If the details you can take from these wordings. Now these are again, here are certain examples showing the method of writing binomial nomenclature according to the international rules. The specific name is written as the specific epithet, and it is written with the capital letter. The generic name starts, and with the small letter, the species name starts. Now, the single species is described sometimes under different names by different authors, and these names are called as synonyms. In such cases, the name under which the species is first described is considered to be valid. So these alphabetical rules are also there to follow the binomial nomenclature. This is the binomial nomenclature and the classificational or taxonomic hierarchy together that we are discussing going on. This is just, I found this cladogram system to just show interesting to show you. Now, the importance of binomial nomenclature we have already seen. बहुत बड़ा एरिया को शॉर्टन करके डिटेल्स पढ़ने के लिए छोटे छोटे ग्रुप्स में बांटना बहुत जरूरी है, और उसके बेसिस पर बाइनॉमियल नोमेनक्लेचर सिस्टम को एक्वायर किया गया है. हालांकि कुछ ड्रॉबैक्स भी हैं इस नोमेनक्लेचर सिस्टम में. बहुत बार जो सिनोनिम्स यूज किए जा रहे हैं, देयर आर कन्फ्लिक्शंस एंड कंट्रोवर्सीज अमंग द साइंटिस्ट्स. One more thing, important point to note is that this classification hierarchy and binomial nomenclature of plants and animals have been described by Linnaeus and Karl Vogt in two important books that was originally written by Linnaeus himself, and that those books are for plant, that is the Plantarum, and for animal, this book is Systema Naturae. Both these names we have seen details in the last class. You can recall that. Now, as we have discussed, बहुत सारे controversies थे, बहुत सारे conflictions थे, उन सबको sort out करते करते बहुत सारी international committees कुछ बनी, and they have established certain rules for the to follow the taxonomic hierarchy, nomenclature system, binomial nomenclature, and the certain codes have been used to describe this binomial nomenclature. For the viruses, the international code used were described as ICVN, International Code of Viral Nomenclature. Then for cultivated plants, it is International Code of Nomenclature for Cultivated Plants, ICNCP. Then rules for the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature is ICBN. For zoology, for the animals, it is ICZN, International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. Then one important term to know is we have seen synonyms. Now there is another term, that is tautonym, as we have seen, and we will see when if you study the details of the specific names of the different organisms, you will find that in some of the cases, specifically or categorically in naming of animals, not in plants, there certain sometimes the same term is used to nominate or to show the generic name also and the specific name also, and such terms are called as the tautonyms. For example, Naja Naja, that is the Indian cobra, is scientifically known as Naja Naja. That the specific name is also Naja, the generic name is also Naja. The only difference is the generic Naja starts with capital N, the species epithet starts with small n. The same way, the rat is known as Rattus rattus. So these wordings are called as tautonyms. So these universal rules को follow करके बहुत सारे nomination rules बनाए गए हैं, और binomial nomenclature system को universally accept किया गया है. Accordingly, this ICBN is for bacteriological nomenclature also. There is one code. So these are the international codes for the binomial nomenclature, and on the basis of these binomial nomenclature, most of the organisms nowadays are identified when they, globally. Now, the other term is the trinomial nomenclature in the category of nomenclature. As I have told you, the taxonomic world and its studies are going on and on. That is, these studies are not the experimental studies in major consideration. They are the survey-based studies, and as we have seen earlier also, कि करीब 2 million species identify किए जा चुके हैं. Latest concept के हिसाब से more than 8 million species are now said to be identified, and their nomenclature has been done. But still it is said that from 10 to 100 million species are yet to be identified. So we can well imagine how much vast category of taxonomic field or world is yet to be studied, and the process is going on and on. Now, we have seen that binomial nomenclature, which is universally accepted, अभी तक में सबसे ज्यादा वाइडेस्ट रेंज एंड स्पेसिफिक नेम ऑफ नॉमेनक्लेचर सिस्टम है कि दो टर्म्स में हम एक इंडिविजुअल को नेम करते हैं या डिनोट करते हैं. वन इज जेनेरिक नेम एंड सेकंड इज स्पीसीज नेम. दिस थियरी वाज बेस्ड टिल it is said that the species is the lowest level of the taxonomical or classificational hierarchy. But further studies are identifying much more lower levels. That is, the species have been now further being divided into the subspecies, and then subspecies, and like that. So the studies based on identification of the subspecies, a trinomial nomenclature system also has been now studied. And here the name of an individual or one living organism is expressed in three terms. First is the generic name, starting with the capital letter. Second is the specific epithet, that is the name of the species, starting with the small letter. And the third is the subspecific epithet, starting again with the small letter. And this subspecific epithet mention or indicates the name of the variety. For example, there is the Homo sapien europaeus, is a category of the a particular type of human that are the man of European race. Then cauliflower of particular type is mentioned as Brassica oleracea botrytis. Cabbage as Brassica oleracea capitata. So this is the trinomial nomenclature, which is yet in its initial condition, but the studies are going on and going on. And so these are certain particular characteristics of trinomial nomenclature. So with this ends the taxonomical classification area, or the part of our study that ends with the taxonomical hierarchy, its different level or taxa or taxon, individual level is taxon, and the nomenclature, including the binomial as well as trinomial nomenclature. Now, students, regarding the pattern of the questions being asked from classification, we can always expect, you can rather always expect the subjective as well as objective questions and short notes on this topic. There is variety of type of answering and questioning on this topic, which we can have a separate class. If you are interested, you just let me know in the comment box. टैक्सोनॉमी से, क्लासिफिकेशन से, बाइनोमियल नॉमेनक्लेचर से क्वेश्चंस किस तरह के आ सकते हैं, किस तरह से आंसर किया जा सकता है, we can discuss separately in an independent class. Just to mention in very short notes, subjective questions. So always you can expect what is taxonomic classification, what is systematics, and what is the taxonomical hierarchy, like that. But and then comes the short notes. Short notes may most expected question is binomial nomenclature, trinomial nomenclature, nomenclature itself, or the taxonomical hierarchy, like that. And one more specific type of questions are always being asked that are based on numerical basis, और उसके mark fetching भी सबसे highest होता है numerical basis पे ही. That is, the name of some organisms or the plants are given, and you have been asked to classify those organisms or those animals, like frog. You are asked to you will be asked to give the scientific name or scientific classification or taxonomical hierarchy of the given organisms or the animals or the plants, and then you have to classify those organisms, and then their final step will be their identification, naming their binomial or trinomial nomenclature as it is written. So this is the very simple explanation of the pattern of classification done in an objective and numerical pattern. So with this ends the classification. If you want anything more to be discussed, any more clarification, please ask in the comment box or the chat box. So thank you so much.